Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Terrace Podcast. I am your host, Craig Fowler, back once again with another weekend review of the 6 games which took place in the Scottish Premiership. On this occasion, to talk through those matches, it is Tony Anderson. Hello, Tony.
Hi, Craig. How are you? You feeling good?
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm a wee bit tired, but
what have you been up to? What have you been up to?
Just a Sunday game. Sunday game means pub afterwards, and you don't get the day recovery before I'm back to working a lot and watching matches.
So you were at Tynecastle yesterday?
Yes.
You have a good time?
Yeah, in fact, let's just go right into it, because I'm that tired that I'm just going to be like, right, let's get this done as quickly as possible.
No fun with Tony. Only known you for fucking 30 years. Jesus, all right. Fucking Tony, I'm paying you. We're on the clock. Hurry up. Hearts, bloody hell. Jammy goalie, go up. Right, cool, next.
Yeah, because that is the only game that between us, we have watched every single game this past weekend, but that is the only game in which there was overlap in which we both watched it, so I thought Tynecastle would be the perfect place to start. That was the game which took place on Sunday afternoon, and that finished Hearts 1, Aberdeen 1, with an own goal from Nicky Devlin midway through the second period, cancelling out Leighton Clarkson's first half opener.
Very much enjoyed some of the chat online because they were posting no one gets past Nicky Devlin. I think it was maybe Fraser Elgin posted underneath it. He literally scored their own goal. You know, the SPFL, they were listening like Shanklin, Cristiano Ronaldo. They can't get past him. You know how he done that brilliant block in the second half. So I think it was Fraser just underneath it. He literally scored their own goal.
Well, nothing gets past him unless he chooses it to go past him.
Yeah. It's all on Devlin's terms.
Aye, unless he goes, I'm going to let it pass me by diverting it where I want it to go, which apparently was the back of the net. But, sorry, I think the main thing that stood out for me for this one, so Hearts go to the bottom of the league due to the fact that Hibs won comfortably at the weekend, so Hearts are now 2 points adrift at the bottom, but there was a period there at the end of the first half, so Hearts were the better of the two teams to begin with, I would say. Not too much in it, but I would say that Hearts were shading it. And then Hearts get a couple of injuries to the defensive line. Stephen Kingsley goes down with what looks to be a hamstring tear, where he's probably teared it off the bone and he's going to be out for several months, possibly the rest of this season. And then Frankie Kent goes down not long after, and that kind of disrupts Hearts. I know the Aberdeen fans listening to this saying, well, what about us? Because their defence was a bit kind of makeshift as well, with James McGarry coming back in because Jack McKenzie wasn't fit, and they had to also bring off Jack Milne off the bench later on.
And they chose to bring McDonald. They chose to start McDonald over Rubicek, who did have a hopeless day on Tuesday, just past.
At Easter Road. Actually, do you know what? Like, although he was maybe let himself down in the key moments, but I thought Rubicek was actually...
He was better than
Malloy. Yeah.
But they were both overly aggressive, both desperate to win everything.
Aye. I suppose that's the thing, though. If you're going to take out one of them from the team, then there's no real backup for Malloy, because they're very thin at the back. McDonald is a kind of handy replacement for Rubicic. But
maybe not a bad place to start in the fact that we're talking about defenders. So before we come at the Hearts one, the Aberdeen ones, McGarry, awful first 20 minutes. Looked like he'd never played football in his life. And kept giving the ball away. Looked like he was trying way too hard to sort of make an impact on the game. And he was coming in central a lot, trying to be a footballer. And then McDonald in the second half was desperate to give Hearts a goal. He must have I counted the last 20 minutes, he gave the ball away 5 times in dangerous areas and just kept on getting away with it. Kick the ball away, sir. We're getting way above our station, Mr. McDonald, with all this football. But yeah, the Hearts one that ended up with Rowles getting moved out wide, that was the door opening to Morris and Aberdeen at that point.
Yeah, and it was not just that as well, because that was an issue and was an issue until I think the last 20, 30 minutes. Rowles got his act together and was decent from that point forward, but he really struggled for a period, and he struggled with Shayden Morris's pace, and also just for a team that's very brittle mentally, like to have those injuries to your backline during a really important game, just kind of really seemed to knock their confidence. And Craig Gordon made that really good save not long before the half, and you're thinking,
Clarkson's one where he
just make it to half time. Just make it to half time, because it seemed at that point Aberdeen were very much in this end and looked like they were going to make it 2-0. And if they did, it's hard to see how Hearts would have come back from that. But second half, Hearts were better, and it showed at the very least that this team is still not functioning that well, and we'll get onto some of the issues of it. But at least they had heart. They had some heart for the fight, which is not something you could say about the last Hearts team, which got relegated, which went down with a bit of a whimper.
And it seems like Aberdeen have bbeen the calling card for both clubs this week in terms of proving that they have fight. Hibs and Hearts. It's like the proof in the pudding that they had difficult points in it. Bad things happened. I'd say the Hearts, it was sort of the injuries. Hibs, it was like individual errors again causing them. But both clubs managed to pull themselves into it. And the referees seemed to want to wait for Hearts to get the winning goal because that game he just would not blow the whistle at the end of the game. And Hearts were well on top. And if the game had went on for another 5 minutes, I think Hearts would have got it. And I think that's quite commendable in that scenario because Aberdeen were able to bring on just an entire new front line later on in the game with quality. I mean, Duke, Nisbet and Kiskinen coming off the bench is good by anyone's standard in the last sort of 20 minutes.
He never actually brought on Nisbet. Nisbet got stripped, but he never actually came on.
He never. So it was just Duke and Kiskinen. But
Nisbet was getting ready at one point, but he must have changed his mind.
He went like, he saw him take his top off. Nah, you're all right. I joke. So yeah, I think it is a bit of a big deal for Hearts, but want to start talking about some of the old individuals then?
Yes, Cammy Devlin. And talking about kind of heart and like for the fight, that Devlin typified that. He did have his usual terrible passes that Cammy Devlin does.
And and just never getting booked regardless of how many fouls he makes.
Yeah, when that said during the game, come on, Cammy, that's a simple pass. I was like, there's no such thing as a simple pass when it's Cammy Devlin. Regardless of it's 5 yards or 50, there's always a degree of jeopardy as to where the ball's actually going to end up. But he was just tearing around the pitch, being what Devlin is when he's at his best. Just making the game, helping make the game so frenetic and helping like keep the fans on side as well. Like getting them somebody to kind of believe in that they are fighting for this and to get themselves out of this terrible position in which they find themselves. But also commendable, I thought Craig Halkett not played an awful lot of football this season. He was very impressive. There is a certain assurance when Halkett's playing for any time there's a ball that goes into the penalty area. Like if you give away a set piece or whatever, Halkett just typically wins those headers and clears the ball at the penalty area. He's not the most mobile, and you can sometimes be a bit worried if he gets turned or whatever, but he had a good game. Oyegoke beside him didn't really put a foot wrong. I thought Adam Forrester was decent defensively at right back. He, quite notably in the last match between the sides, was absolutely roasted by Duke at Pittodrie. But
which they tried to recreate, basically, in this.
Yeah, but on a couple of occasions when Duke did go at him, Forrester ended up winning the battle. And further forward, Musa Drame, like... We were told he was absolutely useless. He wasn't going to get anywhere near the team. He might never play for Hearts again after he had that cameo against Celtic. What I think about him is that his touch is still quite a bit raw. I don't think he's good with his back to goal. So I'm not sure he's a forward, or at least not a forward at this stage of his career. I think he needs to learn a lot more about how to play up front.
Another strike. So no one's able to be back up to Shanklin. It's just impossible even when you buy one.
But out on the right, he was very good. He was the one... Aberdeen fouled him constantly because he was just getting the ball and just starting to run with it. And he's certainly got pace. And he can motor with the ball. And every time he got up ahead of steam, they would just foul him and take the booking. But not that it's a criticism. I think that's just smart play. And Hearts probably should have done that to Shayden Morris when he started that run, which ultimately led to the goal. That was the Hearts perspective.
What did you feel about with Teeling all the changes? I mean, I know they had a midweek game, but we had Shinnie dropping out the team. You had Duke dropping out the team. Then you had McKenzie, which was forced. Rubizic that they decided to take out the team. It was quite a lot of changes.
I wasn't sure about the Rubizic one. I didn't really mind any of the others. I was going to talk about Shayden Morris and that,
because he got his place. We spoke about on Wednesday that he was pushing the thing where you have to start him. He's playing too well.
But a problem with that, and a problem with Morris, I think in general, even though he's been very much improved this season, is he only a 45-minute player? So he was great in the first half in this game. Only really had one run in the second half quite early into it, and then kind of disappeared. and was ultimately hooked.
He looked knackered.
He was very similar. It was very similar against St Mirren last weekend, where he was excellent first half, barely saw him second half, substituted, and then he comes on against Hibs. It's excellent, but he's only playing the second half.
Yeah.
Is he only a 45-minute player? That's something just to keep an eye on. But in terms of Thielen has rotated his team quite a bit this season in general, and I didn't really mind Palaversa and Nielsen together. In fact, I felt they both played reasonably quite well in the first half. Palaversa, I would say, especially, and Clarkson had one of his better games this season. McGrath was probably maybe a little bit disappointing considering how good he's been at times. But
I thought the game got a bit, for the first time with Nielsen, I thought the game did get a bit frantic for him. At some point, the first time I thought like, the Scottish football's here, and he was maybe struggling a bit. Not struggling, but you know what I mean. The composure wasn't quite the same. He was having to make fouls to stop people playing, and he caught himself upfield a few times because it was so frantic. Everyone was all over the place at times in this game. Shapes started to break up quite a lot, I felt, over the time. And Nielsen was ending up at the edge of the box, and he got a bit nosebleedy with his decisions round the box. So it's the first time, maybe this week, where I felt like Nielsen just hasn't absolutely been able to just go on pure autopilot, which is what it's always seemed like. He was just never flustered at all. And it's good to see that Scottish football's finally caught up with him a little bit.
The final thing I'd say about Hearts is just there's still problems at the top end of the field. Shankland, I mean, you can see it with that chance near the end, where I think last season, if he had the confidence that he doesn't have at the moment, he wouldn't have lashed it the way he did.
Well, he done one in the first half. He done one in the first half with a volley at the back post.
Yeah,
across. It hit the fucking roof of the stand.
Yeah, when he's trying to smash the mitre off it, as we used to say. But it's just more a case of you just need to have more of a controlled finish, and you've got a good chance of scoring.
Which he was so good at last season because it was the not just one of the main things was the array of finishing outside of the boot, headers, chest and lobbed shots, driven shots, place shots. You know, it's just I think even if we don't have anyone, it'd just be good to take him out the firing line. Just do it. Hearts have to be the ones who do it. And even if you're not winning anyway. So what is there? There's nothing to lose now apart from the fact that you might be able to reignite someone.
It's just the issue is that we are bottom of the table. If we were at 8th, for instance, then it might be easier to be like, okay, let's take him out of the team for a couple of games. And if we lose those matches, then it's not the end of the world. If we lose our next 2 games, it is deep fucking trouble for Hearts. And you do lose just the all-round play. His all-round play is still better than Liam Boyce. And we haven't seen much of James Wilson, but it's a tough task to ask a 17-year-old
to lead the line for one of the biggest clubs in the country, or in a fucking in the
it's bottom of the league.
Yeah.
So it's just it just has to be there. And I'll say it. I've said it constantly. I'll continue to say it. The decision by Stevie Naismith to not sign an R forward in the summer window because he believed that Liam Boyce was still the man to be the backup to Shankland is absolute lunacy. And it's one of those things that in many other jobs you'd be sued for malpractice. That's how fucking bad a decision that was. And it's still hurting Hearts to this day. But it's not just Blair Spittle. He was still his
deliveries were honking.
Yeah, he was still trying to make things happen, but his deliveries were honking. He did not have a good game. And Alan Forrest is another Hearts forward player who's not in any form whatsoever.
And it's just, I felt like Shankland, you don't get as close to him. When I was watching that game, I was watching it relatively closely because it was a chance to watch 90 minutes. And people don't get as close to him as he did last season. I think he used to be, because he's not quick, so he's a link player all day long. You have to get bodies in around him. And I looked him up at Y-Scout earlier, and you can see that the difference between how Hearts play in the average positions of Shankland and how the other strikers are playing at Aberdeen, for example, they're so much closer together at Aberdeen for the forward than what Hearts are. And then obviously Morris is the one for Aberdeen who's sort of miles away from everyone else, sort of doing the lone forward.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. A lovely finish for Clarkson, by the way. I really liked that. You didn't really maybe respect it at the time. It looked like maybe just hit off him, but he totally opens up his body and slides it in. And these are big moments for a guy like Clarkson, man. He needs to take these opportunities.
Yeah.
But, the level of player he is, how good he was when he first came in, and what I suspect the rumours and what I kind of believe how much he must have cost to get back after that good season at his age from a club the size of what they were getting him from. He does need to produce because there's so much, because the squad's like big.
Aye, so far this season, he's still been better than last season, but that was a very low bar to clear. But in terms of the Aberdeen squad, there's so many players who have seen at their best under Thielen than we've ever seen them before in an Aberdeen shirt. He is not one of those players.
Aye.
He's still not quite the player he was in his first spell. But like I say, he did play well in this one. I was quite impressed. He didn't have anything to do from a shot saving perspective, but Ross Doohan, I thought was good.
What happened to Mitov?
He was good. He was good in terms of Mitov. I think it was when he was taking a goal kick at one point. He just seemed to kind of pull up a little bit.
Because I missed. I went to the toilet and I came back and saw there was another man in goals. What?
But Doohan was really good at judging the through balls and getting off his line.
He was off
and
sharp,
making sure that Hearts didn't get in behind the back line. But I think that's
so if Shanklin's the one up front, I think you're going to be pretty brave on how high you're going to play as a goalie. And I don't mean that as a slant at Shanklin at all. Just if the striker's slow as fuck, you're going to play high up. But still a bit better than it was for Hearts, suppose.
Yes, and it's certainly better than it was for Hibernian, who went to Motherwell and won 3-0. Goals from Junior Hoylett, Mikolaj Kukarevich, and Josh Campbell meant it was a pretty comfortable victory for the Hibees in the end. Tony, as expected, you watched this one.
Mm-hmm.
For what you were saying in the group chat, it sounded like this was a thoroughly deserved Hibs victory.
Oh, yeah. I like the simplification of the game by Hibs is something that I wanted to talk about as well. I felt they just wanted to keep that ball away from the goal. And it was quite simple. They played forward much quicker. They were getting the ball into Neil and Triantis really fast. From the back, I think Iredale helped so much in this new formation, us being able to move the ball at the park. And this is where the whole game is different based on Hibs' ability to get the ball from the first third to the next third, not even to get the ball forward, just in the midfield and make sure there's no real pressure compared to Motherwell's, who were just put them under any sort of pressure. They were just hacking the ball at the pitch. If I was a Motherwell fan, I don't want to do too much of this because I do want to talk positive about Hibs because it's the only time I've had to do this in a year. But Motherwell were fucking abysmal. They were so bad. And they were just kicking the ball at the park. And I was asking Graham, because I was like, and I knew that O'Donnell and McGinn were out, and Graham was saying, we seem lost without one of those players. Because Paul McGinn said that they're not the best players, but McGinn has drive. And, he can play a 1-2, and he can get you up the park. And, and he's quite he's relative. I think Sod's probably the same, actually. They're relatively brave based on ability. Like, they're braver than maybe what their ability should, and that's probably what's helped them get to the levels in their careers, maybe above where they should be, because they were willing to take, this is how you're meant to play football, even if I'm not one of the best, this is what you have to do. This is the only way that I can be, that I can have an impact and I can play in a proper team. And Motherwell lacked that ability to get forward so much, and then you've got like such a stationary midfield with Halliday and Drakovsky. So it's like so cumbersome, it's so slow, and Hibs were just able to pick them off and get them. And then, as I said, the other big thing is just Hibs didn't make any fucking massive errors. Who knew that helped? Just like, again, it's just a simple part of football, is that people were keeping the simple part of it. They were playing well. They were all in the correct positions. This formation change has made people more comfortable. Like, the funny thing about back threes and defenders is, see if your centre halves are shite, you unfortunately have to play more of them. It's the problem. Normally you would say, why do you want to play more and more players? But they need the protection. Rockies was brilliant again, and they set that up. O'Hara's looked so much happier having people around them. And like I said with Iredale, he gives the team so much impetus. His passing into midfield, into the last third, it's always done with such purpose and such drive, and it's so massively helpful. And the team were able to just play so easily against that Motherwell front, because they just weren't able to get in the last third. And like, they just didn't ask any question. I think it was over an hour till they put a shot on target against a goalkeeper who, on Tuesday, you would have been forgiven for thinking was armless. So it's just how you can get to that stage and not take back. And he done well, Smith, and he dealt with everything properly, but they never asked any questions whatsoever. And Lewis Miller got nowhere near anyone in Tannadice's pocket. Lewis Miller, as where he should be, of course. And
you mean Lennon Miller?
Lennon Miller, sorry. Lewis Miller got dropped. So for Chris Guy, but Lennon Miller, he wasn't able to impact the game at all. He's starting to move towards thinking the Stabapopolopoulos might be a big fucking dud. That's very, very possible. Do you have any thoughts on that or anything you want to ask?
The thing about Stabapopolopoulos is that he this is very culturally insensitive to the Greek nation. But I said this quite recently. It might be in last week's podcast. I can't quite remember, but like he's not fast and he's not big. So apparently, like he's just kind of a workhorse, but also like a bit of a penalty box player. But they've got nobody else. They've got nobody else in their team that suits to play alongside him. So it's like they've gone for the kind of pace and working partnership of him and Maswinisi. But they've got so many forwards, and just none of them are very good. It's a weirdly set up squad, and they've got like very few, like loads of forwards, but very few wide players as well. It seems to be like he's just set this team to play like the 3-4-3 system or 3-5-2, and with as you say, with some key injuries, it's not really working at the moment, and they're just all season they're just quite uninspiring at the top of the park.
It's Kettlewell is streaky Lee Johnson without the patter. Is what I like.
Yeah,
it's quite like it's just such long one way or the other. There's never really seems to be any middle ground. I don't know, but I feel like if I look at Motherwell's form at any given time, it's 5 green W's or 5 red L's. Just there's no sort of middle ground to that, and it's been like that now for pretty much his whole period at the Motherwell. But again, to go back to Hibs in the midfield, you can see the difference. I was
going to ask you about Nicky Cadden.
Yes, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, he's the best player in the league. You mean? All right, okay, yeah, right. It was obviously a great ball in for the first goal. Oxborough gets caught under it, which might lead us on to the conversation further because Gordon and Meatoff, and as you said, done well in the other game. But here's our first clip of: is this the weakest batch of goalkeepers we've had in this league in a long time? Because Oxborough looks pants as well.
Yeah, he's certainly got an error in him, and I think he's maybe one of the better goalies in the
league. Yeah. And he gets caught. Nicky Cadden, it's a really good ball. It's tantalising. It makes him think he can come out and get it. And it's moving away from him, and he gets caught under it. And the beauty of Cadden is when you're a shit team like what Hibs have been recently, you need to rely on people's weapons. And Nicky Cadden is just a weapon player with brilliant delivery, brilliant corners, good free kicks, good delivery for open play. And there's other parts of his game. He's not particularly quick in a wide position, and you can see playing the wing back, as you saw in the Aberdeen game. He can switch off from his defensive duties, but we're in no position to not be like grabbing and holding on to a guy with just a left jukey, classic left jukey, and he's pinging it everywhere, and he's got really confident, and he's really risen to everyone just thought it was a weird signing. He was out of contract and he still came after the season started. And he was the player's brother. So it doesn't make you think that the guys were desperate to have him. You know, I feel like this guy could have been signed at any point during the whole summer, and he didn't come in until after the St. game. So like that doesn't make me more mad into getting him on board. So but now it just looks like he's taken loads of responsibility, and he's a go-to guy. And you needed someone to stick their head above the parapet, as you say, because Hibs were really, really struggling. It was Hoylett for a little while, but he got kind of lost in it. He needed people to play off. But Cadden just having deliveries, you see, it's his corner that comes in to create the second goal. So basically everything that Hibs are doing is, in some shape or form, coming through Nicky Cadden. And fair play to him, because I don't think many people were bothered. But as I said, he's a player just with weapons. And in Scottish football, man, you don't need too much. Players with weapons, playing a simple style, you'll probably do all right. Add a bit of pace don't make tons of errors. You're probably going to finish mid-table or around there if you go with that.
You talked about the backline in terms of David Gray finding a solution to help the defence. Jinky's also found it at the top end of the park as well, with this 2 up top with Junior Hoylett kind of working in the hole.
And and the fact that with Dwight Gale to come off the bench, that's 2 games in a row where he's had a massive impact, because he's a smarter player than Kukurejevic, and that's Kukurejevic has ups and downs, and it's tough for a player who's not actually played that much football in his career to go to a team, play up front as a lone striker, and that team be shit. And there's a bit of pressure on his shoulders because there's some sort of expectation, and I don't know how well he's actually done. I go on and off Kukurejevic over during games even. But again, as I said, in terms of like games played, he's a young player in terms of actual experience on the park. But yeah, it's mild with Youan. It means that the ball sticks. Youan's actually good when he's back to goal. He's really strong, low centre of gravity, good skill. You know, he's hard to take the ball off. The only time Youan loses the ball is when he does it. It's only on his terms again when he loses the ball. Do you know what I mean? It's doing something daft, making the wrong decision, being a bit lackadaisical. So with him, it's like having someone he can link with at all times. Hoylett is a good player as well, so he links with Youan when he drops off and he can play the ball into him, which is similar to like what he had last season with Melida. Yeah, it's not quite to the degree when they're setting each other up for goals, but again, it's a simple player who's on his wavelength and they can link up. So I think that's bringing out the best in both of them. And Hoylett's and they're both able just to drift around and pick up space and support the players on the ball. And then finally, the Joe Newland-Triantis looks like we're near enough. That's the one. Because Quan, Newland-Triantis was just overkill. Everyone being the exact same style of player, all wanting to do the same job. It was overkill. This is leaving space. Triantis and Newland able to do it. And Triantis had another. I thought he was decent on Tuesday, if not perfect. He was really good. I thought at the weekend, driving forward, he takes risks, Triantis, and he'll dribble, and he tries to play penetrating balls through the middle of teams into the striker's feet, which can be quite risky, so you can end up looking like you give a ball away a lot. And Joe Newell, off the back of being questioned tons as captain, real questions for the fan base, not trusting Newell as a captain. This week, Iredale came out and done an interview singing Joe Newell's praises about him getting everyone together, big team meetings, Newell taking loads of responsibility, doing all the chat as captain, making everyone feel better. And then massive performance during the week for Newell on Tuesday, and then again tonight, and with him and Triantis in there, they dominated. I thought they dominated at least the first 50 minutes, hour of the game on Tuesday, and then today at the weekend, they absolutely battered Halliday and Tchaikovsky. Like they just didn't fucking exist. So yeah, always like that. Hibs, confident, built momentum, going to get, unfortunately, play Celtic at Parkhead next week. Not what you want when you're trying to build momentum, but at the same time, as I said, you'd have to be. It's not negative, and people will say this, it is not negative to say Motherwell were absolutely fucking garbage. And that does help.
Right, let's get to our third game, which took place at Rugby Park on Saturday. Kilmarnock 1, Dundee 1. A goal from substitute Bobby Wales, cancelling out Lyle Cameron's opener from Dundee. Both goals coming in the last 20 minutes of the game. And Tony, this was just a hugely frustrating game if you're a Kilmarnock fan, with the number of chances they had at 0-0 at 1-0. They had 16 attempts on goal to 3 from Dundee in the second half. It was pretty much one-way traffic, and I just actually burst out laughing when I did 2 things that were just reactionary. I burst out laughing when Dundee scored, and I gave a wee kind of yes fist bump when Kilmarnock equalised, because I was just kind of like, I must have just feeling so empathetic towards Killie fans watching this going, what the fuck is going on? Because it did seem to like encapsulate their entire season to this point. Because I still think that Killie are one of the better teams in this league. They've certainly got like a higher ceiling than, well, Motherwell, for instance. And Motherwell are 5th in the table, and Killie are still 10th. They just don't seem to have anything that kind of drops for them so far this campaign. They've been masters of their own downfall as well. Didn't get me wrong with the amount of red cards they've had. But they also seem to be perhaps one of the unluckiest teams in the league, and that was basically what this game was.
Can I ask about the lineup at Kilmarnock? So we've got Gary Mackay-Steven coming in at wing back, which is bold. I think it's a fair thing to say. Was it Fraser Murray that was playing left wing back? Is that right? And then then we went with 3 centre forwards. I'm assuming, was Bruce Anderson the one sort of dropping off? I thought, or maybe Watkins.
It was Anderson. It was Anderson who was mainly dropping off, but he just had more kind of license to move around, I would say, rather than dropping off. So he would maybe come a little bit deeper, but often he was just kind of trying to find the space, going to the left, going to the right. There was something they done quite a lot in the first half, where all 3 of the forwards would be on the left side of the pitch, and they were just trying to create overloads that way. Anderson kind of typified the frustrating performance. It just wouldn't quite drop for him. He had a number of like decent kind of half chances, but it just wasn't his day.
And then Ndaba was playing in centre midfield again.
He was fine. It was one of his better performances in there.
What did you feel about that sort of lineup? Because that's a bit different, is it not?
Yeah, it's certainly bold with Danny Armstrong dropping out the team. I mean, largely it worked because Killie were the better side. And like I say, particularly second period, Fraser Murray was impressive on the left. Brad Lyons had another really good game as well. Mackay-Steven was fine. It was mentioned in the group chat afterwards, like the surprise at him being wing back, but he did actually play there for Hearts on, I think, I want to say about 3 occasions a couple of seasons ago when it wasn't really happening for him, and Hearts were playing the 3-4-3 system. And I actually quite liked it when he first played there. I think it was maybe a cup game against Livy where he was kind of forced into the position due to an injury to somebody, but it meant that he was forced to run with the ball because there was a lot of space ahead of him. Mm-hmm. So it was like, right, go ahead, do it. This one he wasn't actually as involved as much. Murray was the one that was really getting him playing and having a go at Dundee's backline. And the other Killie players, just while I'm on the subject of the players that stood out, thought Joe Wright and Lewis Mayo at the back were both excellent, both dealt with, and Dees was fine as well, dealt with pretty much just about everything. Obviously didn't deal with everything that Dundee threw at them because they conceded, but dealt with just about everything that Dundee had. And again, particularly in that second period where they were just dominant and Dundee were reduced to really just knocking it long. Seb Palmer-Holden had the most aerial duels of any player in the top flight this last weekend, and that tells you a lot of what Dundee's second half performance was like. But the star of the show was Bobby Wales coming off the bench.
Brilliant.
Gets the goal and then another couple of like slalom and runs. And when you see like somebody like him performing like that, and he's out of contract at the end of the season and he's not getting much game time, like every young player, just about, other than David Watson, Ewan Wilson, and Lennon Miller in this league, you're kind of like, what are we doing? Why are these guys not getting more of a chance? Because certainly just looking at Wales alone, he's a very talented boy and should probably be playing more than he has actually managed so far this season.
And every time he's been involved, he's impacted.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously in their big comeback at Dens Park in Europe, and today are the ones off the top of my head that he's had a major impact, but he's barely got a place. So that's every single time. So surely after a performance like that and a brilliant goal that he scored, McInnes is maybe going to let him off the leash. But now he'll be worried about people coming to sniff around him and come and get him, because obviously he could sign for someone in January.
Get that contract sorted before you play him again.
So let's go to Dundee's back three, Fowler, because it always questions need to be asked every time. And what was the makeup of it? And you're saying that Kilmarnock got millions of shots on goal, so I'm presuming they weren't brilliant.
So I was quite impressed with Astley. It's somebody that I'm not entirely familiar with. I thought he had a decent enough game. Cometio is somebody that's had mistakes this season, but he was generally fine. I'm kind of running out a bit of patience with our tennis podcast favourite, Tony Doors. I'm just not entirely sure whether Antonio Portala is
good,
mistake-free enough to be played every single week of the Scottish Premiership. We liked him last season, and maybe he's been hampered a little bit by the fact that like Shaughnessy's been injured Shaughnessy's missed the entire season and is going to miss the majority of it, if not all of it. Clark Robertson has so far just been injury prone and has barely been able to play. So Portala's maybe doesn't have the kind of adult in the room beside him, but at the same time he's 28 years old.
Yeah. Can you not be an adult?
He is the adult in that back line, but he doesn't necessarily play like it. And he certainly, I wasn't impressed with him on Saturday. I thought there was a number of kind of basic kind of brain fart errors from him that allowed Killie to have some opportunities. But at the same time, what do you do if you're Dundee? Because this is there's a few problems with the team at the moment. They've got Finlay Robertson at left wing back. He's not left-footed for a starter. He's playing out of position there. Simon Murray's not scoring goals at the moment. Probably could do a game or two at the team, but Curtis Mains...
That miss.
Yeah, it's slightly behind them, but yeah, I mean, you got to at the very least...
bundle it in. Do something.
Get the ball. He could probably take a touch. You know what I mean? His confidence is low. He should probably get a spell at the team, but similar to Shankland, due to the fact that Curtis Main's out, there's not really any backup to him. And you're talking about then, okay, then they change the formation, but they don't really have the players to play like a 4 at the back. They don't really have anybody that suits at right back. And the midfield balance.
Can McGee not play at right back?
Yeah, but it still curtails him a bit. He's better at right wing back. And also, I think they've got the right balance in midfield now with Silla, McGee, and Cameron, because that allows Cameron just to kind of concentrate on going forward.
Cameron very good, I heard.
Yeah, he was Dundee's best player in this one, scored the goal, obviously. A really nice finish. I know the goalie's kind of out of position a little bit, but there's still a lot of bodies you need to
it's a lovely finish. It looks a cool goal as well as it roofs the net with the defender trying to get to it. But Robbie McCrory again, he's been one of the... I don't really rate McCrory too high, but again, he's been... It's now race to least shit is kind of where we are. And I remember saying that Craig Gordon should have been... Hart should have moved on from him, blah, blah, blah. Now he looks like one of the best goalies in the league.
John McCracken, actually, talking about bad goalkeepers, he had a good game. So maybe he's rebuilding his confidence a bit and getting back to what he was at the start of the season before he got called up for Scotland, and that ruined his confidence for whatever reason. Before we move on... Like
Shankland side, to lose his confidence because everyone's miles better than him.
Stop playing Shankland for Scotland.
Yeah, maybe I'm shit. Maybe there is something in that. Oh shit, maybe I'm all over the place. I'm nowhere near this crowd.
So there was 2 subs, and then Dundee only made 2 subs in the entire game. One at half time and one during the second half. It was a case of good and bad. So bad, first of all, from Tony Docherty, and should take responsibility for Dundee's fairly kind of poor second half performance, although they still left with a point, so it's not, the end of the world. But he took off Mo Silla, which was fine in itself, because Mo Silla was not good. I'm a fan of Silla, but first half I thought he was really quite poor. He just gave the ball away an awful lot. His touch was off in this one. Fine to take him off. But then he moves Josh Mulligan inside and brings on Ethan Ingram. Ethan Ingram's just no good. He doesn't really do anything going forward, and he's bad defensively. Mulligan was at least giving them a bit of thrust down that side in the first half, and it's his cross for Murray's miss. And then it just upset the balance of the team. However, I did think that they did start to show a bit more threat in the final third, because they were doing nothing at all when they brought on Adewume, and he was... It's a funny player. I've not quite figured him out yet, but there's certainly something there, and he's certainly a threat in the final third, and it's him who initially kind of gets the space down the left channel, which leads to the goal.
And I loved Vassell's little touch for Bobby Wales' goal as well. Looking back, it's sort of like prime Vassell. And it's like a good weekend for the big, strong, experienced striker, because you've seen that with Dwight Gale similar, where it's just using all the experience to sort of bash a few people out the way and play a little nod and not always overly committing themselves. I noticed that with Gale in the other game, is he doesn't always go and challenge for the ball. He's not going to get it. He tries to cut off angles, forces people to do things, and I see Vassell does a lot of that. So there's certainly room for these old boys kicking about in Scottish football, and I thought Vassell's little touch was nice into Wales, and it's an absolutely fucking brilliant finish.
Right, let's go to our fourth game, which took place at Celtic Park, and that was Celtic beating Ross County by 5-0. All 5 goals coming in the first half, with 5 different scorers: Liam Scales, Luke McCowan, Paulo Bernardo, Callum McGregor, and Adam Ida, wrapping it all up inside 40 minutes.
So what's that, 9 goals in 2 halves for Celtic, is it? Second half of the Hearts game, and then
of course, yeah,
5 goals in the first half of that game. By the way, I'm going to say it: Celtic are good.
Yeah, they could. There was obviously a little bit of taking the foot off the pedal in the second period, but also they hit the woodwork at least twice. Had another couple of decent chances. Jack Hamilton, who had to come on for an injured Ross Laidlaw, he had a decent game after he came off the bench. So even though they did obviously kind of stop playing with as much urgency as they showed in the first half, they still were maybe a little bit unlucky not to get another goal or two in the second period and make it like a 6-7 or an 8-0 hammering.
Yeah.
And and also as well, this just shows you how better Celtic are than anybody else in this league, which is obviously the case most seasons, but this season in particular, because this was very much okay, we're playing Ross County. This is a team at home that we don't really respect.
They don't have any weapons.
Yeah, we don't think they're going to hurt us at all in this game. So we're going to make a number of changes. So Hatate was out, Engels was out, Kyogo was out, Kuhn was out, Taylor and Trusty were rotated out as well. He made a number of changes to what is kind of looked upon as their strongest 11. And they're still absolutely pissed all over them. Luke McCowan was great. Bernardo scores. Valley was impressive again. Ida,
what a goal,
not a massive fan, but I think it was one of his better performances.
I love that stylish shot.
Yeah.
And it is always like, it's good. And Ida, I'm the same as you. I can never decide. Because there was periods towards the end of last season, I was fucking loving Ida, if I'm honest. That game at Rugby Park, where he scored the hat-trick, and it wasn't just the goals. It was just his all-round play was brilliant. He was battering sort of like the best centre-halves that we have, really, outside the Old Firm anyway, in Kilmarnock, and he was causing them so much bother. He was turning them. It was brilliant, but I always do think that style of finish, the massive power with the instep, is the sign of a good player. Only good players are able to do that style of shot, so hopefully for his sake, he's able to keep doing that. But it was just, can I ask you, like, I don't want to come across all Gordon Strachan here, but at Parkhead, can you go with a midfield two that are like 10 foot combined?
Yeah, that's. I was going to come on and say that. I'll come back to praise Luke McCowan's performance.
We'll do a big bit about that. We'll do a couple of minutes at the end. I just need to ask this bit. Just when I saw it, I was like I'm not against it. I don't dislike these players both separately or anything like that. But I just like, that's fucking bold. Surely you want to be physical. Again, they're going to pass rings round you regardless. Surely you need physicality in this game specifically. It seemed a bit bizarre.
I had no idea what the hell Don Cowie was thinking with that start 11. It is bizarre. Josh Nisbet and Charlie Telfer, such a diminutive midfield pairing, but also not only that, like playing a kind of, obviously you're playing away at Celtic Park. It's more of a 5-4-1 than a 3-4-3, but ostensibly it's a 3-4-3 with
Jordan White left wing.
Jordan White playing off of Ronan Hale, and like Chilvers to the other side of him. I never got what the purpose in that was.
There's no like, because I like Hale, but like he's not an athlete, and White can't run either. So again, like we're talking about, no threat. So there's just no threat in behind at all. So all Celtic can literally have Scales playing about 40 yards from their goal because there's no risk of anything going in behind them.
It's kind of the setup you play if you're a team. If you're a team that likes to play direct and you're playing at home against a side that might sit in a little bit,
so you play the diagonals.
You bring your tall forward back a little bit so that he can head it on for your swifter forward to kind of run in behind. But obviously, like they're getting the ball in their own penalty box with Celtic bearing down on them already. They can only really knock it high up to Jordan White to win a header on the halfway line, and then even if he does win the header, he just knocks it to like a Celtic defender. Ronan Hale, as you said, he's not quick enough that he's going to run away from the Celtic backline. So it just made little sense. And then you're left with Chilvers, Nisbet and Telfer to try and mark these Celtic players. And you're right, just what you said, they just ran rings around them. It was just such a bizarre lineup.
And he does like a change. And as I said, I quite like Cowie. I feel like I've said this before on here that I think he's a manager who looks to impact the game. And I do think you need that when you're with the shitter teams. You know, like the Martindale style. You need, because you need to be coming up with new ideas because you don't have a good enough team. So you do have to maybe come up with little rabbits in the hat, maybe left field ideas to catch people off guard, to like try and win you a point, try and win you 3 points on random days. But this one was just like, I just don't know. It's like he just wanted to get minutes into certain players' legs, and he was like, right, I'll just do this. It doesn't mean there's fuck all I'm going to be able to do to make Cross County win in this game. So just fucking whatever. Who fancies a run out? Right, you're all playing. Great. But yeah, we've got like we've got McGregor, who's now, I think, the top goal scorer in the league.
Yeah, it is.
In December.
It's every single one of his goals just been a rocket from distance. What the hell's going on?
Quit Scotland becomes Prime Gerard. That's handy. And then we've got Luke McCowan, who, and this is what fair play, Tim, because this is what happens when you have the competition for places. A guy comes in and it's nearly impossible for Luke McCowan to play every week for Celtic, right? It's near impossible. And I don't criticise him for going there. It's a massive opportunity, and he's still going to start 25 games in a season overall, 20 games in a season, and starting 20 games and appearing in 40 is still better than playing for everyone else. It is. Yeah. I don't care what anyone says. I would prefer that as a Scottish player, win all the medals, play the Champions League, probably get in the Scotland squad off the back of just that. But it just shows like he has to go, like when the minute he gets out there, he just has to play out his skin. And obviously he's got all these brilliant players to link up with. It must be really enjoyable. You can see it would bring the best out of someone. I want to say that just to bring the alternative angle when we always criticise players for going to the Old Firm and not playing. And I know that's not quite so much the case, but guys of our vintage, Fowler, remember that being such a regular part of the diet in Scottish football, that they just come and take guys and chuck them on the bench. They do it, and it was so annoying. It was just, and you did blame the players because at that time he was like, that's what they're going to do. You aren't even going to play the 20 games that I was talking about for Luke McCowan. But I think it's fair play to go for him, and you can see how much it must be enjoyable to play because you can. Some of the little reverse passes he was playing, he was scampering, he was everywhere. 1-2 was playing deep balls, like dink balls over the top, like to players for volleys and stuff. You can't do that at Dundee. You just can't do that. So, like, I can see why someone would, the enjoyment level a player like that was having there, and he was just absolutely everywhere. He ended up with 3 assists. I mean, the McGregor one, there's a problem with the assist markers anyway. But,
hi.
But I mean,
I would say either one as well.
But he set up tons of chances. So
he did.
Out of that, he deserved 3 assists. If you know what I mean, his performance.
He still had the statistics show that he was still the most creative player in the Scottish Premiership this past weekend, even though a couple of his assists were giving it to somebody 25 yards to go and then smashing in a shot.
And he's like second top goal scorer in the league. He's got like 5 with 3 assists or 4 assists or something like that. So he's
but he's now making his play to play more often because it's something that Celtic fans have been calling for because Arnie Engels has not been that impressive so far. And I watched Engels when I watched back the Celtic Hearts game from last week. I didn't watch the match, but I watched Engels in particular. I watched all his clips on Wisecout for that game. And he's just very much somebody that's playing within himself, I think, at this point in time. At least I'm assuming.
That's what we say. Next season he'll have learned it all, and then he'll be better than fucking everyone, and he'll win Player of the Year.
Yeah, probably. But at this point in time, he's not doing what McCowan's doing. He's not playing these types of passes because he just doesn't really seem to have the confidence to do it and give the ball away. Like he's just kind of keeping things really safe and not really showing why he's an £11 million player. Mm-hmm. Whereas McCowan is just looking fearless when he's out there. And not only that, he showed real kind of tenacity early in this one. You can see that he really knew that he had to take this chance. And instead of that pressure, cowing him or making him play within himself, instead it just made him play even better. I suppose
there's the other alternative, though, is that you come with nothing to lose. No one expects you to play. So it's the opposite end of Engels. Engels comes and there's loads of expectation. McCowan comes and he can't believe his fucking luck, really. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be there, but you know what I mean? 2 years ago, there's no way he's thinking about signing for Celtic and playing the Champions League. It's not even on his radar. So now it just comes that you can just play with massive freedom, and it must be absolutely bloody class. What a feeling it must be. Get jealous of it. But it looked like to again, for sports team done a bit on it, the pressing for Celtic, it did look a nightmare if you're Ross County. It was just every time they got the ball at the back, there was like 3 guys hurtling. And then you see Maeda, and I know I'm not bringing anything new to the table talking about Maeda's pressing, but I was watching the clips that they done on Sports, and I was like, imagine playing 5s against them. It would be the worst hour of your life, playing against 5s against Maeda. It's a fucking nightmare. It's absolutely horrible. And he runs it fucking like full pelt. He doesn't just press. He runs like he's running on a through ball towards you. And it must just blind panic people, especially at our level. It must just be like probably one of the most fearsome things to see in Scottish football right now. It's just Maeda just running at like 30 miles per hour directly towards you when you've got the ball. Stop it.
Aye.
Relax.
That's something that's probably not... Well, actually, that's probably bollocks of me to say this because it was highlighted on Sports Scene, but it's maybe something that the general fan doesn't really appreciate as much about the Celtic team, is how much they intensely press the opposition team.
It was more fashionable.
They're by far and away, they do it so much more than Rangers do.
And and it was more fashionable to talk about with Ange.
Yeah.
And his style, but I think Rodgers has definitely brought that back. And yeah, it's a fair point. It's like, this is the thing about Rangers and with Clermont, is that that's something that the intensity that everyone's working at, you can do that. You can do that. That's not to do with the ability. Don't get, I know that the pressing lanes and all that is much more like coaching than probably we would ever understand as non-footballers. Like how much work actually goes into pressing in a genuine constructive manner, and it must be really difficult, and all these trigger moments and all that shite that I hear when I hear people actually know about football talk about it. But with Rangers, it's like, how is that not improved? It must be one of the main things you do when you're the best team in the league, is how do we suffocate the shit and put the fear of God in these teams? Because we'll come on to it later with Rangers. It's just everyone plays exactly the same way against them. And yes, they keep on getting his wins, but every team's not going to change, because you go into the Rangers game now, you're thinking, well, we're going to be in it for the 90 minutes. There is a chance where I don't go to a Rangers game now thinking there's no way we're going to get any fucking points. I go in knowing that, see, if we're actually clinical, we might actually easily get something here. Easily. Yeah,
but we're not going to talk about Rangers yet, because they're going blast in this show because they're rubbish to watch. So
and the best season in the Scottish Premiership in years, Rangers are fucking stinking the place out.
So let's go to another game, which wasn't that great for the weekend, but it did have some talking points. That was Dundee United beating St Mirren by 2-0. Kevin Holt from the penalty spot. Emmanuel Adebayoga scored the second after Holt had a penalty saved by Ellery Balcom after Marcus Fraser was adjudged to have fouled Louis Moult and received a red card for that. I watched this one so I can give you my thoughts on United and St Mirren. But Tony, let's begin by talking about these decisions in the game, because
that is the thing. The thing.
Regardless, even if you think that every decision was correct, it's still a little bit harsh on St Mirren in that there was 3 kind of borderline decisions that all went against them.
Absolutely, I think, yeah, because the Walton one. See, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, that is a booking, because ball's going away for goal.
Yeah.
He is trying to get to the ball. He does want to stop the ball. I do. So I think he's making a deliberate attempt. Then when you walk it back, he's running at fucking full pelt and he catches him in the knee. So, like, again,
it should be, I think that should be a red card. If he is a centre-half doing that tackle, he's off.
He's off. Yeah, and that's when I watched it again, and when you see it at full speed, you're like, aye. If someone had just let, as you say, abandon ship in the centre of the pitch as a defender and sprinted it to all the Sanya running at full pit and completely cleaned them out, you'd be absolutely screaming for a red card. Whereas it just seems that the goalie got all the, sort of like it was all the rules based on last man and all that. It was like all those rules that were laid out to protect them.
Aye, that was the kind of focus.
Ignore all them. That had nothing to do with this. It's actually the fact that he's fucking cleaned the guy out.
Yeah, I thought that should have been a red card. Just, because it is. I mean, you've got to say that it's excessive force. He's flying at him and he catches him really high.
Yeah.
It's not a straight leg. That's the only thing that you can say, right, okay, so in that instance, it might not be quite as endangering an opponent as some tackles will be, but he went in with plenty of speed. I thought it should have been a red. I think the second penalty.
I hate the first penalty. I hate it.
Aye, it's one of those ones where, I think it is a penalty, but it's very much a post-VAR penalty.
It's also like, how can you say that's that it's so much about like how you interpret that tackle between the two of them. So how can it be clear and obvious? It's the most interpretation tackle you'll see on the pitch all day. One player coming down the way with studs showing, another one going up the way, and them connecting. So you can look from both angles who the foul is. So it's the most grey area 50-50 tackle you can ever come across. So it literally is the most VAR cannot get involved in this tackle. For me, like, there's no way it can be clear and obvious. So like, how can you possibly get involved? And I thought he was really unlucky. As I said, he's coming steaming in with his leg quite high, with his studs showing. I don't think it's a foul either, but I think, fucking hell, you're clipping that. He's coming in like quite raj.
And the one after that, the Fraser on Moult, he ultimately does haul him down, but there's just a lot of kind of contact from Moult on Fraser at the same time.
Aye. They're a tussling.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure about that one. I can maybe see, like, if the referee just thinks, okay, that's contact, but it's not a foul, and then, at the last minute, Fraser does...
bundles in the back of him.
And that
Moult does brilliant. Moult does brilliant. Because Fraser tries to be quite clever, and I guess it's because they're losing, would be my guess, and he doesn't just want to clear the ball out. And I think this happens sometimes at these stages of games. The players start taking more risks because they know there's fuck all time left and they can't afford to not be on the ball. So you start, like, try to keep things in, keep it moving. Don't just clear it out for a corner or a throw in that you might have done in the first half, because then they'll take fucking ages to throw it back in. So I think that does kind of play on minds sometimes with decision making as defenders, and being a slightly more risky in the way that they behave. So I think that's kind of, and Moult just does well to get in between them. He thinks he's got there and he muffles his way back in and gets across him. But yeah, it's another 50-50 one. But again, I suppose I get if, you know, they said it has to be a red because he's not attempted to play the ball. But you have just ran it at the back of him. Is he deliberately running in the back of him? I find that's another bit where you're, like, interpreting that rule sort of not in the way that it was intended.
Yeah.
He's not, like, deliberately bundling the back of him. Moult's kind of done well and got across him and sort of, like, manufactured a situation by being strong. I don't think that means that just because he hasn't attempted, he's not attempted to do anything, would be my, he's not, it's just that he's got caught and his knees have caught in the back of his legs. You see, you get a foul. I still don't see why, because you've given the foul there, it has to be a red card.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what was done at the end there. So I'd be interested to hear Craig Anderson's thoughts on that, but that's just me. I think I just don't feel that was when that rule was made, that was how it was intended to be used.
I'm just looking at the first one again with Fraser and Holt, because I didn't really see. You're right in terms of his foot. Holt's foot is starting to come down. I think what the referees are looking at there is that Holt does get to the ball, and even though his foot is coming down, you could say, I mean, are you saying he's in possession there? I suppose they are, even though it's that's a bit suspect because it's just going towards Alex Gogic, and then he does kick the back of his heel, does Fraser Holt. So yeah, I could see why, but I'm not sure. And you're right. It's the fact that it wasn't given at the time that is a big problem with that.
Aye, if you give it at the time and they didn't get involved to change it, then
yeah, because I think that's fine with the second one. He goes to look at it in terms of a red card, but there's no, I wouldn't say there's anything kind of clear and obvious to change the decision of whether it's a penalty or not.
Yeah.
So that's probably better use of VAR, but submitting. I can see why they're a bit
away
aggrieved.
from home, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, so what caught my eye for this one was kind of both teams, the centre half, because they both play this kind of similar systems. In fact, they both play the same system. They both play a 3-4-3, and both
like
teams.
Every cunt does. Oh, we're back to that again. It's always the stage of the season when everyone realises they're shite. They all revert to the three at the back. There's too many goals going in. Right, we need to stop this. So
it was the left-sided centre halves for both teams. I felt played a big part in this one. So Holt obviously wins the penalty, scores the penalty, misses the other one, but also Dundee United's best two chances in the first half came from him playing like balls to Dalby, and not just like long punts, like accurate direct balls. One of the ones he plays down the line, and Dalby should do a lot better where he's eventual finish. Other one he plays it into Dalby, and then it's eventually worked, and United get a good chance out of it. And in the first half, St Mirren were quite poor. They were struggling to really get much going in an attacking sense, but I thought that they got better after the break when Richard Taylor, the left side of their back three, started to get on the ball a lot more and to pass through the lines, and that improved them as a team. St Mirren's biggest issue was that they never really got their front three into the game, at least with any sort of consistency. And that's reflected in the fact that they had 54% possession overall in this one, but their XG was only 0.35. I mean, United's was over 2. That's to do with the penalties as well, obviously. But St Mirren were just didn't really make things happen in the final third. And I did wonder, watching it, whether Stephen Robinson should have thrown on Mandron or Iunga earlier in the game, because apart from the challenge,
here
from
he comes
Bolton,
crawling back up the Iunga train.
So probably man-drawn. But apart from Walton's challenge on him, Olasanya never really got in behind Dundee United.
And look, the one time he did, he nearly caused a red card. So you want to be trying to recreate that as much as possible.
So I don't know whether... so I don't know. That's maybe why Robinson leaves. I want to see if it... Because once he does get in behind, there's chances that Olasanya was going to score. But United do play with quite a deep defence, and it was just always going to be hard for him to do that. And I wonder whether he should have brought on more of a target man earlier and try to create more chaos.
Because obviously Declan Gallagher, from what I've read, was absolutely strolled this and was really good.
Yes, he had a very good game.
So, again, maybe somebody have to go. Do we have to go and get someone just to ruffle his feathers, even if it's through dirty means? You know what? I like what you're saying. This guy's having too easy a day. We need to give him something else to think about.
Yeah,
I think you're saying with the deepness that Dundee United's defence plays with in general, it didn't strike me as an Olasanya day, especially as a lone striker.
Yeah.
And normally Robinson is someone who would pick up on that, and then like you said, it went like that for the whole game. So I think that is a bit surprising. But he's probably just really pleased to have Kilty back. He wants to just be able to keep using him. Yeah,
aye. But Kilty, both Kilty and Miniman were just quite quiet. Just quite quiet, and this one didn't really have much of an impact on things. Down United's right, I quite like the Middleton strain. There is the makings of a good pairing there, especially with Middleton being in decent form at the moment. I'm still left a bit cold by Babinski though. They moved him from the centre of the park out to the left in this one. To be fair, in the centre of the park, I've been a bit more impressed with him recently, but anytime he asked to play in the front three, I just don't think he plays very well, and he was, unsurprisingly, the first Dundee United player hooked off in this one.
Is Trapanovsky back?
I'm not entirely sure.
Because it was pretty bad injury, eh? Maybe, not bad, but, maybe 6 weeks bad.
Yeah, I can't quite remember. Maybe a Dundee United fan. Send us a message on Twitter or Blue Sky and let us know how long Trapp is out for. But let's get to
the funny thing is, when that comes through, I'll be like, why is this guy telling me that? Oh, I've asked someone. And Middleton and Strain as well, is that it's like, and there's not a lot of pace, but it's two guys who've got nice touches. You can see them linking up quite nice. I can see how that would work.
And Strain was making some intelligent runs inside as well.
Oh, so he's back. You tell me Strain's back.
I don't know if he's fully back, but he was decent enough in this one without being brilliant.
Good to hear. I like just Strain's just a player I like watching. He's got a bit of quality in. So yeah, I would like to see him be good again.
Right, Tony, let's get to our final game, which was St Johnstone 0, Rangers 1. The early kickoff on Sunday. An own goal by Jason Holt, the only goal of the game. Tony, you had a tremendous rant to me before we started recording, so please can you now repeat that rant for the listeners?
It's just so boring watching Rangers games because every other team's, as I said earlier, they've learned how to play against them, and Rangers don't put any sort of play with any sort of intensity whatsoever. So everyone just plays. So everyone knows to sit deep, and then people can keep the ball. They won't press you too much. You can actually get time on the ball to build yourself into the game, and you're always there. But they're on telly you know that it's like you watch over half of Rangers and Celtics games. Actually, more than half, because you watch all their European games as well. So you watch over half of Rangers and Celtic games. And I swear to you, if I didn't have this as a job, which I'm very grateful for, in the TV show, the minute I saw that St Johnstone v Rangers, that's going to be 1-0. I know it's going to be 1-0. Every single fucking game is 1-0. Rangers, I don't want to fucking watch it. And I'm being forced to, against my will. So I can only imagine how Rangers fans feel, because you could just play out the whole game before it starts. And it was just... But the problem this time is that St Johnstone they're not particularly good on the ball, St Johnstone. So there weren't even teams like Hibs and Hearts who've been quite crap. They were able to go to Ibrox. So they actually managed to get loads of chances and should have come away with something, because they've got a bit of football in the middle of the park. And like I said, you don't get massively pressed. So if you play the ball into the midfield, you are going to be able to build into the last third. And if you've got half decent players, you'll be able to get in there. So I'd be quite angry. I know that sounds bizarre when you're talking about a Rangers team going to Perth and St Johnstone being in the game the whole time. Because no matter what, if you're playing against Rangers, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to be in the game for the full 90 minutes. And people should have got more points off Rangers. It is really that simple. I mean, Hibs and Hearts are the two worst teams in the leagues, and they should have arguably come away with fucking 3 points for Ibrox when they both went. But I'd be angry. In the second half, St Johnstone never once broke out to try and sort of ask them any questions. So, like, on the paper, if you're an English, if you're an EPL dude, you'd be probably thinking, like, oh, St Johnstone must have done all right in that game. Must have been competitive. But really, it was just like, they never broke out of formation. They never broke out of shape to try and ask Rangers any questions. So it was just the blandest game of football, which you knew when Rangers scored, it was just going to remain that way. But come on, just run a bit faster. Play the ball a bit faster. Ask people more questions. You're bloody Rangers. For Christ's sake, I can see why fans are getting totally turned off by it. It's not just because it's like, he's sort of like pieced it together so they're surviving points-wise. You know, they're getting points on the board now. But it must be a chore and a fucking half going to watch that Rangers team. Because I said, you're furious because you're playing, every team you're playing just turns up and knows exactly what to do. And they all say that. Jim Goodwin said he knew the blueprint for going to Ibrox to get a point. Like, you know, I've seen this. He knows that they're not going to do anything different. And it's just fucking lazy, isn't it? Really.
So Yanis Hadji came in and started in the number 10 spot instead of Mohamed Diamande, who's had some criticism for not really fitting into that number 10 role. Was Hadji any sort of improvement? I know he put the cross in for the goal. Anything else?
They moved in the first half. He was taking a bit of a kicking.
Right.
I think St Johnstone sort of noticed that part of him. That obviously he's back in. He's not playing a lot of football. It was like his first start for Rangers in like 500 odd days or something like that, like 18 months. In the second half, they moved him. They sort of like they had him going out to the left as well. And Rangers made some pretty interest. They brought on sort of Yilmaz at half time. I'm trying to remember who they brought him on for. Bajrami. So then they sort of like went with like two left backs. So they were really stretching the pitch. And that allowed sort of Hadji to get a bit more space because like St Johnstone had to put the bodies over to try and stop the two left backs linking up. And it was sort of Raymond who was stuck out there with him. I thought Raymond, out of everyone, so I thought he was one of the better players on the pitch. He was certainly St Johnstone's best player. He's really combative and he works really well. And his tenacity, even when he's being pressured on the ball, he hacks away. He really, really puts it in, Raymond. You can tell that he's and he's scrapping away like mad. And he's not the absolute world's best player, but he was dealing quite well with sort of Tavernier in the first half, and I thought he'd done pretty well in the second half as well. And then Dre Wright was struggling over on the left-hand side with the two left-backs going up against them. So the Rangers did try to make changes to bring Hadji in, and I suppose he did. And in the second half, they were able to fully dominate. It was maybe after the first 20 minutes, it was just Rangers on the ball for the entire... Did you watch this one, Craig?
No, I didn't.
See, it's unfair. It's unfair. I thought we both would have to watch this game. And you realised I was watching it and thought, I'll take the fucking day off that one.
Oh, I was travelling through Edinburgh for the Hearts game.
Oh, bloody hell. I thought we were dwelling on this one together.
No, I didn't see any of this.
All right, fair enough. Raskin was good for Rangers again. He's the one who tries to bring that impetus I'm talking about. And I feel like he's the one that they have to follow because he's like a Rottweiler in his style. You know, he's got a low center. He's small as well, so it's like a low center of gravity, just scrapping away. And he's a bit dirty, Raskin. He's got that part in his game, and he snaps at every tackle, and he's running at everyone's heels. And it's just like no one sort of follows him into battle. It's kind of what it looks like. It's like, right, that's his job. You know, like they all just seem to want to all do their own thing, and there just seems to be no unity in the way they play. So just hugely frustrating. Igamani didn't really have anything to go on, and just it seems mad. I know that you're playing in Nice on Thursday. I know you've got the travelling, but that's a fucking massive win. You've absolutely humped a team who are like fifth in Ligue 1 and the Ligue 1, and then they only lost a game at home all season. So, like, you know, like they must have been buzzing, the Rangers fans. That's absolutely, and the players must have felt like great after that. And the manager, this is a brilliant performance we put together. It's like one of the most really, really impressive win. Probably one of the most impressive on the continent, even though I know Nice haven't done particularly well in the Europa League this season. But they've not lost a home game this season. Rangers turn up and battle for one, but there's just zero momentum that comes from it. And It's like, oh, we're back to playing in the Scottish Premiership. And we're back to playing the exact same way we've been playing the whole time. And St Johnstone know you're going to play that way. And the game just plays out completely as that. And I thought Suter had a good game again. I mean, they'll never have an easier game. Kim Pioka, one-man band up there, and he tried his heart out. And there was one point he kept the ball off 4 guys, just with skills, with tackles, with pace, like just firing about, just would not let the ball go, and eventually managed to tackle the ball into a St Johnstone player, but they just never asked a single question at Butland for the 90 minutes. And then when you've got another team who seem quite happy with that scenario and they don't want to murder anyone, it's just like it's death of 1,000 cuts if you're a neutral fucking watching it. And I'm sure the St Johnstone fans, as I said, would feel like there's have 10 minutes to go and ask them. Like you're 1-0 down, go and ask them. They just never bothered. Then the players St Johnstone bring on, in fairness, there is zero depth at that squad at all. Who's coming on late? They try and put Nielsen over at right back, like I said earlier, to try and deal with the 2 left backs over there because they were asking him a bit of questions. But then they ended up bringing on Esselin in midfield at half time. But then later on, it's when you need a bit of quality off the bench, Fowler. There's 12 minutes to go. You're 1-0 down against Rangers, and it's McPake and Wee Max. It's just you're just getting up and going to the pub, aren't you? Let's be yeah.
Right, Tony, that'll do us. Thank you very much for joining me.
No, it was my pleasure, mate. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody for listening. If you would like to hear more from us, then the best way to do so is to join our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Terrace Podcast. But until next time, goodbye.
Oh, the list on Thursday, Fowler. The list, it's coming.
Yeah, so it's not coming out this Thursday. It's going to come out next Thursday while I'm in Copenhagen. So it's going to be there instead of the lower league show. So there's going to be a lower league show.
You're bringing that laptop to Copenhagen with you and all your gear. Oh, I don't like it, Fowler. I don't like it.
No, I'm not doing that. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to do it. We're recording it this week, and I'm just going to release it next week. I'll schedule it in advance. I'm not taking my laptop with me.
Don't sound good.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. So this week there's going to be a lower league show, but it's myself and Sean because Telford is unavailable, and then there won't be one next week, but it'll be the first list episode of the season with myself, you,
tons
Tony,
of lower league
and
stuff
Sean.
in there.
There is tons of lower league stuff in there. So that'll be coming out soon enough.
When are you off to Copenhagen?
It is next Wednesday I leave.
Yeah, okay. Not doing like what Lee done, was leaving on the fucking Monday.
I'm not back. I'm not back till the following Monday, so I'm staying 5 days. So
right, okay.
I'm making it
and then when the game's out the way and everyone fucks off, you could just be in Copenhagen.
Yes,
that's a good
exactly
way to do it. That's the right angle. That's the right way.
A lot less Hearts fans.
No, but
to annoy me.
Even though I know there was some bad shit in Bruges and people let themselves down and blah blah blah. But even if there's not that, 2 days of the football shit is more than enough. The screaming, the songs, the drinking non-stop, the millions of people bouncing about and it just being absolutely hectic. That's plenty. 2 days of that is more than enough. So then I would, regardless of what fans are there, I would be choosing the 3 days after. And Copenhagen, have you been before?
No, I've not.
It's fucking brilliant. It's an absolutely brilliant. Unfortunately, it'll be cold, but in general, it's class,
sure.
well walkable, easy to dart around.
I'm going to go to Malmo for the day as well.
You're going to go over there to get the train over? Well, it takes half an hour.
I just want the bridge. That's I love the TV show. I want to see the bridge.
And it only takes like half an hour. My mum and dad done it recently. They said it was class. But Copenhagen, it's expensive, loads of cool bars and that, and I like it, but there's loads of dive bars that are good fun. Good late night bars, Fowler.
Nice.
Which is always my favourite. The Dinge Factories. That real drinkers in a brick laid out bar with the bar staff are just drinking with you and chatting with you, and everyone just stands round the bar, and basically everyone's on the same night out. It's one of my favourite. In Copenhagen, had a fair few of them where the drinks are much cheaper as well. Some bars you can smoke in as well. They just tell you to put a euro in the tin. I was there. Put you a tin. Police just came in, took the tin, walked out. Fine.
Right, that'll do us. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Cheers. Goodbye.